We're going to have a Metaprotocol panel next. So we're going to bring Neebo back up, and we're also going to bring, let's have our panelists come right up. I'm going to introduce a couple of our panelists, well, all of them. I don't know why I said a couple, because they're all fantastic. First, we do have a substitution. Tagga had a schedule change with his Bitcoin conference talk, so we have a fantastic replacement with Cole, who's the Chief Product Officer at Dynamics, building OylWallet and Sandshrew, which is a really interesting Metaprotocol indexer. You could call it a meta indexer. And they're building on the WASM stack, which is interesting. Next to Cole is Domo. Domo single-handedly created a $2.7 billion market cap Metaprotocol in Bitcoin called BRC20. Yes, everybody, yes. Domo, yes. And the famous tagline at the top of the BRC20 docs. Read every word if you decide to test. These will be worthless. And never have we been more happy that Domo was so wrong. Next to Domo, we have Sawyer. Sawyer is the growth lead of APRO, which is a Oracle solution very similar to Chainlink, but focused on all kinds of chains, including Bitcoin assets such as Bitcoin, BRC20 runes, with Taproot assets and RGB, as well as others coming down the pipeline. And then Neebo, who we just heard from, recently released the Rainbow Protocol. So everyone go check that out on testnet. Very, very happy to have you all here. Can we give them a round of applause? Yeah, thank you. All right, when I say Metaprotocol, can I get a raise of hands? Who knows what a Metaprotocol is? We have a couple who has no idea what a Metaprotocol is, just totally clueless. Okay, let's just start super simple. Who wants to take maybe Domo, maybe Cole, just give us the lay of the land on the Metaprotocol side.
I guess Metaprotocol, in my view, is any protocol that lives on top of a broader protocol, may not have a consensus mechanism, uses a protocol as a data availability layer, and then uses arbitrary logic to enforce a pseudo-standard on top of it. For instance, BRC20, Bitcoin is not sentient of the logic on BRC20. It's just JSON spam in the eyes of BRC20 and some laser eyes in the room maybe. But yeah, there's no connection from the protocol or consensus mechanism for Bitcoin that enforces onto BRC20. Cole, do you want to add anything to that?
A lot of Metaprotocols are enabled by indexers. So you'll see there's like a best of slot. There's a BRC20 indexer. There's a runes indexer. And so Sandshrew, which is Oyl's infrastructure product, is a unified JSON RPC that serves Bitcoin Core, Explora, Ord. We have OPI embedded natively in the stack, but it's for creating more new indexes that can be hosted by Sandshrew. And so we think about like the next generation of Metaprotocols will be built by users, and the indexes will be hosted on Sandshrew and available to everybody. So anyone who has a Sandshrew API key will be able to access the newest Metaprotocols and indexes that are hosted on Sandshrew.
Yeah, so to put it super simply, data availability on Bitcoin 100%. You have global state verification because all transactions for all Metaprotocols are on Bitcoin. You leverage the security and the consensus of the Bitcoin network when you're storing the messages for your Metaprotocols. Then you have off-chain indexers that read the Bitcoin state directly, and then they compute the Metaprotocol state. And then you essentially call these indexers in order to get the state for the Metaprotocol. So examples of Metaprotocols are ordinals, BRC20, runes, the Rainbow Protocol. There's a Proto-runes that was recently released. There's BRC420 and there's BRC100, and there's, I think, 1,000 other interesting Metaprotocols. They're really interesting because you can do compute off-chain. And so Bitcoin, which has a really limited compute environment, you can suddenly do all kinds of things like NFTs and tokens and meme coins and marketplace trading and all of that. So hip hip hooray for Metaprotocols on Bitcoin. Sawyer, can you give us a little bit of context on the oracles that you've been doing specifically for some of these Bitcoin Metaprotocols?
For sure, thank you. Actually, APRO Oracle is a decentralized Oracle network specifically designed for the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I guess maybe most person of here maybe heard about Chainlink. We are similar to them, but we focus on the Bitcoin ecosystem. This what's our biggest advantage. And Oracle is like a bridge between the blockchain network and the outside world. So we may need to provide some data service to reliable service and security service to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And for example, for Metaprotocol, for Runes protocol, what we do, like actually they need the accurate and timely data when they allocated the runes coins and when they want to enforce the smart contract. So there is where Oracle coming. We provide the stable, the security, the efficient data service for them, and we give them like price data, like event outcomes for the Oracle for the projects. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit, Neebo, about your work on the Atomicals protocol. Tell us a little bit about Atomicals, why it was created, and maybe some of the kind of challenges that a metaprotocol has in kind of its early days.
Atomicals protocol started from 2023. It comes with its mainnet on September, which is a color coin theory back metaprotocol, which is they have a property that all those coins value attached to set value, which is an output value, which is also a coin value, which is nice because you do not need extra computation of the token value. You just use the Bitcoin ledger as its main ledger to read the balances. But however, it also lack of ability to split the value of a certain amount of sets. For example, if you have a coin value which is like 10,000 or 20,000 set value, which is a token value, which is great. However, if your token value is only 1,000, however, the market price is over like $30,000, which is very expensive to send in transaction if people really want to trade on the market. So it lacks of the ability. So we try to solve that problem. However, it's really, really hard. Now Atomicals already have a solution that it has its own virtual machine concept and is under developing, and maybe it will be coming out like in Q3 or Q4. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, one of the interesting things about Bitcoin is it has a very limited scripting environment. And so you can't just take a ERC20 smart contract on Ethereum and deploy the smart contract. And so Metaprotocols is almost like a smart contract type innovation that's happened on Bitcoin. But there is a lot of infrastructure required, as Neebo was talking through. When you have a Metaprotocol, you need an indexer, you need APIs in order to get the state, you need minting services in order to mint tokens. We actually have, with Rainbow Protocol and with BRC20 and with Proto-runes, 3 of the 5 of us have actually launched Metaprotocols on this panel, which is really fun. Sawyer, we need to get to. Sorry about that. I was going to say, Sawyer, we should get together and launch some Metaprotocols after this, but the microphone gods didn't want that to come through. So I just want to hear a little bit about Proto-runes from Cole, and then maybe we can talk about the early days of BRC20.
Sure. So Proto-runes it started out basically as a meme on Twitter, like all good things. So programmable runes, what is this? Everyone is like rushed into runes, saw them as meme coin potential, interested by the ticker space, We have a cool new issuance platform. What can we do with it? Where is it going? Can we build AMMs? Can we build swapping? Can we build lending? Where is it going? And so our CTO, Judo Flex Chop on Twitter, is an absolute genius. And to be honest, I'm on the product and design side, so I don't have as rigorous of a technical understanding of this. But what Ray was trying to create is like thinking about all of these scaling factors that can have issues when you're creating metaprotocols. So like, BRC20, when you are trying to deal with ORD or create any metaprotocol that has ORD as a dependency, we're talking about, ORD is a behemoth. It's like 70 million inscriptions. The hardware requirements are insane, all of these things. And so we sort of, Sandshrew evolved to have the Metashrew toolkit, and in order to show off what you can do with the Metashrew indexer toolkit, we're creating Proto-runes. And Proto-runes, we call it a standard. There's a proto-burn mechanism where basically you burn your runes, and then they become picked up by a separate indexer, which is hosted on Sandshrew. And so we call those separate indexers like sub-protocols. So sub-protocol for us it's anything that uses the Proto-rune standard, but is derived from the runes index. And in Sandshrew's case, the runes index is a little bit different. We've actually rebuilt the runes indexer compiled to the WASM, and so it uses like WebAssembly, which is much faster and has like benefits across multitude of different facets, and it lets us very easily and quickly create new sub-protocols and leverage everything that we've built with Metashrew. So where Proto-runes is going is very shortly we're going to drop the spec for Proto-runes, which will include a GitHub repo, all of the functioning examples, and some of the early implementations of an AMM and a governance platform. And what we're trying to do is encourage people to build on Proto-runes using the Sandshrew toolkit, where it is by far the easiest place to create an indexer and have it be hosted. Right now, the hosting functionality for Metashrew is not open to the public, but very soon, in the early weeks of September, we will be launching Sandshrew 2.0, which will have a much expanded Metashrew functionality, and it all lives within the product.
Okay, before we go to Domo, I just want to paint the picture for you a little bit. I'm going to call it the birth of metaprotocols on Bitcoin. It's not technically true because they've been around since 2013. So it's like a rebirth. Let's call it the rebirth of metaprotocols on Bitcoin. We had ordinals. Casey Rodarmore created the ordinals protocol and launched it January 19th or 20th, 2023. There was a big hype bubble. Everyone was interested about ordinals. And then it was kind of a quiet time on the ordinals front. And then out of nowhere, one night, Domo tweets, say, here's this cool JSON thing. You can create tokens on Bitcoin. And that was the start of, this rebirth of interest and excitement, being able to unlock almost unlimited compute on Bitcoin L1 by leveraging these metaprotocols. There are trade-offs, of course, but just thinking back to it, it's kind of a beautiful moment, Domo. Maybe this is maybe I'm I don't know if you're going to feel embarrassed, me talking about this moment like a special moment in my life. But yeah, would love to hear from you more just about the early days.
Yeah, and when I want to go back to the previous question about metaprotocols, when I'm explaining it to like my grandpa or whatever, I think a good analogy is marriage itself is kind of like a metaprotocol for gold, if you think about it, where you use gold as the data availability layer to mold the ring, and gold doesn't know that you're being married, but there's some off-chain agreement that enforces that. So that's the example I use when I'm explaining to my grandparents. As for the early days of BRC20, I've been in ordinals since the start. I think I saw the protocol a bit different to everyone else. I'm a data scientist, and I was like, the first thing that clicked with me, especially once I saw things like Bitcoin punks, I saw sats names, was like, hey, this is a portal that everyone has access to into the data availability layer that is Bitcoin. Before, of course, you could put arbitrary data on chain, but it had never been more accessible to anyone. So it was like this global portal that anyone could use. So I think that was the reason I decided to use the ORD envelope rather than anything else. The inspiration to actually create a fungible protocol came from a tweet from a guy named Redphone Crypto, who basically said, hey, if we're doing non-fungibles, why can we do fungibles when it's usually the complete reverse in every other ecosystem? So saw that tweet, didn't leave my computer for 48 hours basically, and just released it as an experiment. As Bob mentioned, with the way I phrased it, really had no intention or plans of it blowing up to what it did. Really the intention there was, hey, here is a way that you could emulate fungibility, not like, let's create a $5 billion ecosystem. So it's been a fun ride, and it's great, like, get to be here and talking to you guys on stage.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Domo. Okay, Sawyer, let's talk a little bit about how your Oracle solutions have kind of changed because of Bitcoin Metaprotocols. I mean, there's a lot more to support on the Bitcoin side than we've ever had before.
Yeah, actually now maybe in our Oracle ecosystem, we also have many leading Bitcoin layer tools like Bob, like Citria, like Bilio. Yeah, they are our silence, and we coverage 90% of the Bitcoin layer tools. But for me, actually, I want to focus on the some solutions that are not EVM capable. I just want to get more some Bitcoin native things. Maybe I can give you something experience in Nashville. I encountered in when I was in Nashville. Many taxi driver always ask me why you're there, and I told them I working in crypto, Bitcoin, Web3 industry, but they feel so confused. They don't hear about that. But when I say it's Bitcoin, they say, hear about that, and they light up. So I guess maybe Bitcoin is the definitely gateway of the mass adoption. So that's why I want to support it of anything Bitcoin native. So we will focus on Bitcoin native, focus on Bitcoin layer 1 like CKB. They are the chain based on the UTXO. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Okay, one of the downsides of Metaprotocols, all these Bitcoin native assets are being created, but in order to, a lot of people want to move these assets to other chains. That requires kind of tricky bridging setups. Neebo, I would love to hear more about Rainbow Protocol that you just announced. It's probably the newest Bitcoin Metaprotocol. I can probably say that because you just announced it like 20 minutes ago. Tell us more about how your teleport solution for Rainbow is a little bit unique for Metaprotocols and how it simplifies this bridging process.
Okay. So we do not use threshold signing at the first point because we think people will send transaction, to some address they do not confident about, right? And then they might feel fear that the assets might lost. So we are thinking that we want people to feel safe and feel quick and feel rapidly and understand the speed and secure way of transact the assets on internet computer. So we directly use the ICP ledger and internet computer capability to teleport those things. The technique behind that is account abstraction we use on top of internet computer. It's really, really important that the property using that we allow to separate the account owner from the Bitcoin UTXO control model by saying we are using account model to simulate the Bitcoin UTXO model. So that in that way we can use the ICP ledger to hold assets and transact and teleport from the VM to the Bitcoin mainnet.
Yep, beautifully said. Okay, one of the challenges with Metaprotocols, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the shortcomings here. Metaprotocols have off-chain indexers, and you're relying on those indexers to make the state of the Metaprotocol available so that you know that you have a BRC20 balance, or you know that you have an ordinal that's located in a specific UTXO. These off-chain indexers tend to have a centralizing aspect to these Metaprotocols because you need to have someone running these Metaprotocols, someone running these indexers. Domo would love to hear from you on what you're doing with the Layer 1 Foundation on the indexing side, specifically to try to kind of overcome this centralized indexer issue with Metaprotocols.
Yeah, it's a good question, and the indexing side of things has probably been taking up the majority of my mind share since starting this project. I think early on there was a lot of quite aggressive outpour against the centralization of just at the time we just had one indexer, Unisat. So we spent quite significant effort, partnered with Best in Slot and a variety of other data providers to diversify that indexing set, right? So now we have 10 plus independent indexers running their own state. Best in Slot created a product named OPI, which anyone can run their own client and validate the state themselves, which is great, but of course introduces other problems if you decide to update, right? So this is the reason that Casey did the CentroTAF system, right? Like you need a clean way of updating the indexers or having a way that they sync together with updates. So it's, as we all know, with building Bitcoin, you solve one problem, you introduce another. So yeah, again, it's a challenge we're continually facing, but I think there's certainly paths forward, and one of the reasons I created the Layer 1 Foundation was any problem we're solving with BRC20 is certainly going to be present in any other meta protocol, so why solve it? Why not solve it in the open?
Yep, awesome. Cole, talk to us a little bit about the meta indexer that you have at Sandshrew and how that, making it easy for anyone to run an indexer for a whole bunch of protocols. Talk about how that makes it a little bit more decentralized on the indexing side.
For sure. So yeah, there's a few ingredients to unpack to fully understand like what Metashrew is. I think the way to start is to understand what Sandshrew as a product is. So Sandshrew is a unified JSON RPC for Bitcoin. Think of it as like an Infura, if you're in the Ethereum space, for Bitcoin. So we realized that this is like a necessary need for a lot of projects, marketplaces, our own wallet included, where we need a clean way to get the data within one namespace. We need to cut down all of these external dependencies, and we need to like have higher performant options. And so what Sandshrew solves is this unification of it, where there's one RPC where you get everything. And so where that led us is, well, this is going to host all of the future indexes. And so it was designed in a sufficiently scalable and extensible way that we could then unlock what's called Metashrew. So Metashrew, there is an open source library that you can run yourself, and you can host it yourself and sort of validate the state of the network. But I think the real secret sauce to Sandshrew is the fact that it's a hosting solution as well. So the Metashrew indexer toolkit allows you to write, in any language. You could write JSON script, you could write, because it's compiled to WebAssembly, it's super flexible to any type of language you want to write in, and you're really just defining metaprotocol logic there. So let's say I create an indexer, cool, I have all this data, now I have to self-host it, and now I have to convince projects and wallets, like, here, get the data, please use this. And so what Sandshrew fixes is, once you create that indexer with Metashrew, you host it on Sandshrew. Now anyone with an API key to Sandshrew can then access that. So what Metashrew aims to unlock is like this new paradigm where, instead of it taking, I'm not sure, Domo, how long, you said it's 48 hours for BRC20. I'm sure, runes took a little bit longer. Like, these are some of the smartest minds on the planet. If we want to lower the barrier of entry for development on Bitcoin, we need to make it easy to understand and solve some of these, like, you would not believe what the AWS bill is to sync ORT. Like, it's crazy, and it takes like a month. So these, like, what we're trying to do with Sandshrew is unlock that. The real playground is with Metashrew. And so Ray's first big experiment with Metashrew is, well, we have this new runes indexer that's within our, that's built within Sandshrew. How far could we extend that? And that's where Proto-runes goes. So what we're looking to do is encourage people to build on Proto-runes by creating more sub-protocols and indexers that experiment and interact with that. And ultimately, even like AMM functionality can be recreated with the right set of sub-protocols and indexers that may be hosted by Sandshrew. Awesome,
thank you. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left. One really quick, crazy idea for the future of metaprotocols. Some people call metaprotocols based sovereign rollups. which is going to be a hard thing for a lot of people to like wrap their heads around. But it basically means it's like a sovereign rollup where you can self-verify the authenticity of the state because everything's stored on Bitcoin, and it's based because you're actually putting all of the transactions on Bitcoin itself. So you have like use Bitcoin as your full data availability layer. So Metaprotocols are actually only like a couple baby steps away from being an L2 or being a rollup in and of themselves. So this is more like an open question to the panel, wild, crazy future. Where are Metaprotocols going to go? Are they going to be their own L2s? Are we going to have, rollups? Are they going to be, composable in some kind of fashion? Any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I've also heard client-side validated assets is another one I've heard. But yeah, it's something I've thought a lot about. When I first saw ORD, ORD is also a meta protocol. There's logic leaps. It's very simple. It's first in, first out accounting, and basically that this data is assigned to that SAT. Like that's the assumptions that everyone agrees at the social consensus. BRC20 takes a slightly step further, but it's not a massive leap. With these client-side validated assets, I do wonder how far you can push it, because the more complexity you add, the more difficulty it is for someone to validate it themselves. So I think we will push that limit, and it's unknown if there is a limit, if that makes sense. So can you just rip out Ethereum execution layer, slap it into an indexer, and make a meta protocol like that? We're exploring that, but we don't know if it's going to work. So I think we'll find that limit if there is one. But yeah, it's exciting times ahead.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other short comments on the crazy future of Metaprotocols?
Well, one thing that I think is important to think about with Metaprotocols is there are also response to new opcodes being unlocked. So, who knows where that could go? If we get opcat, what could a Metaprotocol built with that? If we pop a ZK validator in there, what could that look like? Sandshoe specifically is more focused on how can we lower the barrier entry on specifically layer 1, but I think the key to the scaling is understanding how does it work there, and then applying those most robust patterns and reverence for decentralization to a true layer 2 system.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for being here. This panel has been absolutely fantastic. Some of the top minds on Metaprotocols. This has really been a treat today. So thank you all very much. Let's give them another round of applause.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, everyone.